Kia ora whānau. Thanks very much for coming tonight. Really appreciate the turnout and the keenness for people to come and get involved in the discussion around how we transition into better land use together. We're really desensitised. We drive around the country, see these kind of scenes quite a lot. In the wintertime they're particularly bad. Intensive winter grazing is when you have a lot of cows and not so much land to put them, so a lot of them get trucked down to Southland. They give them about 5 metres a day on a really rich crop to get their condition back up for getting straight back into the milking. A lot of the cows are pregnant, and this is where they end up calving. There's a calf that died. It's quite exhausting for a newborn to walk around in the mud for the first few hours of its life. A lot of times they don't make it.
Are these calves that come early?
No, it's throughout the season. You'd like to think that calves get taken to better paddocks. Sometimes you see it. There's a calving paddock. It wasn't planted out in a crop, it's just intensively grazed. You get a lot of pugging, urea nitrates dumping into the paddock. It was footage from last year. It's one of our farms. It's a superannuation fund farm. The thing that really annoyed me about this clip, we put it up on the internet just to highlight what was happening on our pension farms. These two migrant workers that are most likely being worked overtime, doing 14-hour days, they got to get up and take cows out the mud. It's not the best job, but they're only doing it because that's how they've been shown, and the lack of care starts at the top of the industry. When we put this footage up online, despite blurring out their faces, both of those guys lost their job, which I thought was a bit sick. Winter grazing scenes down in Southland. Shows where the cows don't really have a lot of places to sleep. It's not just dairy cows, we've got beef. It raises the question, what quality of meat are we having if this is what they're drinking, their own waste? Lots of the time the water trough's so far away from their crop that they've been grazed on, they have to walk so far to get a drink. So they end up pugging the mud up really deep, and sometimes it's easy for them to just get water. Or sometimes they don't even have a proper trough. Canterbury, not the issue with mud, but you've got really bony, leachy soils, heaps of animals. This is the southern arm of the Rangitata. It's not flowing. It's been sucked dry. You can see where the river once was. Hinds, you can just see the intensification. There's no wonder the water down there is toxic. This is up in Mataura, taken this year. Still heaps of crop to go. The river's right there, that flows into Lake Wanaka. That's the national park. When these crops are finished, the paddock doesn't just grow back overnight. It stays like this for 3 months or so, and each rainfall you get so much topsoil slipping away into our rivers. And it's not just soil, it's loaded with fertiliser, loaded with pollution. This is right down near the Waituna Lagoon in Southland. We pumped quite a bit of money into that catchment, but you've still got the intensity happening. Waterways not fenced. You can see the water pooling up, it flows into the Cardrona River, goes into the Clutha. All for about 80 beef cows. This season it's been reported that there's all this improvement around winter grazing, but we have to remember it hasn't rained like it did last year, and even last year was a really dry winter. So when the rains come, that's when you really get these massive overland flow issues. This is the same Mataura Valley National Park in the background. All that pollution is flowing into Lake Wanaka. Got about 1,500 cows on this one farm, standoff paddock. That was a stream running through there, and the Glenorchy River is about 100 metres out of the frame. It's really close. Baleage is a massive issue when you're winter feeding. When it's really cold, they get fed a lot of straw to keep them warm at night, and the plastic ends up going to the river just like sediment. This is in the Mataura River, right at the top. World-renowned fly fishing attraction. There wasn't a lot of rain, it's kind of light rain, and yeah, all the runoff. This is down in Waewae Bay. It hadn't rained for a very long time, but you could still see the sediment making its way out. We saw a southern right whale in the bay here with its calf in the shallows there, trying to get away from the more aggressive bulls. You can just imagine what happens when it does rain, all that pollution comes in there. This is the Waiau River, quite well known for its feature in the Lord of the Rings, one of our better rivers with the national park there. And if you follow the creek all the way up, it takes you to an organic farm. It's not just dairy, it's the intensities of sheep, it's of deer, it's of beef. This is the issue of intensification. We're no different to Indonesia. This is down in Lake Anau Downs. There's 800 hectares of native bush that have been aerial sprayed, then burnt, and in many places bulldozed just to intensify our beef and lamb industry. The farmer reckoned it was all good. There was weeds there, so he reckoned he was in the clear. This is down in the lower part of the farm. You can see where the intensive crop had been planted, flowing right into Lake Anau. There you go, there's our tourist buses when they were coming here. So there's some positives. There is some good stuff happening in the regenerative sector. Growing a diverse amount of crop, diverse species, not grazing it right down to bare soil. Now these are the Taieri scroll plains. You can see there's quite a lot of feed blocks. It hadn't rained, so it's quite dry and you can't see the bare dirt. But this whole scroll plain, this amazing wetland up the top of the Taieri River is still being grazed. There's cattle and fences all through it. Up the top end, it's just beautiful. As you go down, you don't have to go too far where the irrigators are. It's all dried out, been sucked dry, and you've got these massive issues of pollution. There's an intensive winter grazing lot on the left there, and you can see what kind of sediment and growth's going on. Every year I see more and more intensification happening. I'd like to see a lot more from MFE, making sure our regional councils are looking after our country.